The institution I have selected for my research proposal is Space Exploration Technologies, or SpaceX. SpaceX is a private American aerospace manufacturer and space transportation service. The company was founded in 2002 by CEO Elon Musk and is now headquartered in Hawthorne, California. As Musk has continually stated, the ultimate goal of the company is to create affordable space travel as a means of transport intended for people to decrease the length of time between point A and B. The company has produced animated simulations to how they are hoping to do so. Using their BFR, I'll let you know what that one stands for, the simulation demonstrates that in the near future, people may be able to travel long distances in as few as just 25 minutes. Citizens of countries around the globe will be able to utilize these rockets for an affordable price. And for example, traveling from London to New York in just 29 minutes by boarding the BFR. Launching into space, using the aid of Earth's gravity to propel themselves at speeds of roughly 18,000 miles per hour to their destination, where they then descend to a landing station, rocket fully intact and ready to be examined and refueled for the next flight. The main problem is whether or not people will choose to travel this way. One potential risk of choosing this method of travel would be the risks that come along with it. Of course, it is not 100% guaranteed that these rockets will launch without failure and return back to Earth without failure. So it may be a more reasonable option to choose aircraft over rocket, at least for the time being while research is still being conducted. As you can see in this video, Elon Musk has had many encounters with rockets somewhat exploding, or like what he likes to call disassembling before his eyes. Now, for the public, this may seem like a risky thing, but Elon Musk hopes to create the safest rockets possible and hopes to aim to do so with his new rocket, the BFR, which is supposed to be as reliable as they come. It is necessary to note that nobody was injured during the production of these rockets, and all rockets were flown remotely by computers. What SpaceX is hoping to accomplish during these tests is developing a rocket that can enter space, return to Earth, and land on Earth, both on ground and a moving platform in the ocean. As you can see, it's a rigorous process to develop this technology, and SpaceX has allotted a fair amount of time to help develop this technology, so theoretically it should be perfected by the time the BFR rocket is produced. After an extended period of time, SpaceX was able to perfect the technology where the Falcon 9 could leave Earth's atmosphere and return back to Earth all intact. After they were able to perfect this technology, they signed a deal with NASA to use the Falcon 9 as a resupply ship for the International Space Station. This video displays Falcon 9's first successful attempt to leave Earth's atmosphere and return back, rocket fully intact. The rocket then successfully lands in the ocean aboard one of SpaceX's ocean probes, where it is then secured with nobody on board and taken back to land. The clip here shows the rocket capability of the BFR and the other SpaceX rockets. The BFR is able to carry a maximum payload higher than the Saturn V, which is currently the record holder. Following close behind is the Falcon 9, which has served to be a resupply unit for the International Space Station. SpaceX has used the Falcon 9 to resupply the International Space Station and currently has contracts with the International Space Station and NASA to resupply them constantly. Despite being the largest rocket and having the largest maximum payload, the BFR is aimed to be the cheapest of all of the rockets to launch. This would make resupply missions to the International Space Station much more affordable and practical. The BFR would also have multiple uses, one of which would be it would serve to be a method of transportation for intercontinental transport. The BFR could also be used for delivering satellites to space, as its maximum payload is the largest of all of the existing rockets. Now back to the most debated and controversial topic, the intercontinental transport system. Because Musk aims to make this system as affordable as possible, he made the public statement that any ticket from point A to B on planet Earth would be as affordable as that distance in economy airfare. Taking data from a simple Google search shows that a flight from Shanghai to New York in economy airfare is around $435. The BFR can hold around 835 people, so the average amount of money made per trip would be around $370,000. The current cost of launching a Falcon 9 rocket is $63 million, and assuming that the BFR would be around the same price, the company would be at a loss. SpaceX has produced to the public the animation being shown right now. Using their BFR, the simulation demonstrates that in the near future, people may be able to travel long distances in as few as just 25 minutes. Citizens of countries around the globe will be able to utilize these rockets for an affordable price. And for an example, traveling from New York to London in just 29 minutes by boarding the BFR, launching into space, using the aid of Earth's gravity to propel themselves at speeds of roughly 18,000 miles per hour to their destination, where they will then descend to a landing station, rocket fully intact and ready to be examined and refueled for the next flight. The main problem is whether or not people will choose to travel this way. Although if the company is to keep their word and keep their cost of travel so small, it may be a more affordable option for those looking to travel long distances. After all, an economy ticket from New York to Dubai can be as much as $2,000, and on the lower end, $800. And for a first-class ticket from New York to Dubai can be anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000. And this does not account for the amount of time one could spend in the air, which can be as much as 20 hours. So, this may be the better option. SpaceX also released to the public a very daunting statement in the form of an animation showing the public that the BFR could possibly one day take humans and scientists all the way to Mars. Although this process could take months, Elon Musk deems it necessary to preserve the human consciousness and become a multi-planet species. Any day now, an asteroid could take course for Earth and wipe out our species as a whole, so becoming a multi-planet species could help preserve the human intellect. The process to take humans from Earth to Mars is not simple by any means. The payload aboard the BFR will be loaded, and the passengers will board the BFR and be launched into space. Passengers must all be trained and qualify for health reasons. This is because when launching into space, the human body undergoes a great deal of stress caused by G-force. According to NASA, astronauts normally experience a maximum G-force of around 3 Gs during rocket launch, and this is equivalent to 3 times the force of gravity humans are normally exposed to when on Earth. So once the well-trained passengers exit Earth's atmosphere, the rocket capsule pops off the back of the rocket and returns back to Earth. From there, the passengers are left in a parking orbit. A launch vehicle will boost them into the parking orbit, then coast for a while, and then fire again to enter the final destination of Mars. The rocket vehicle now heads back to Earth. The booster engine of the BFR will now be loaded with a payload of fuel. Now the BFR serves as a tanker for the passengers in orbit. The booster capsule meets up with the passengers in parking orbit and refuels the craft. Shortly after, the tanker returns back to Earth. After coasting in Earth's orbit, the passenger vehicle now departs for Mars. The BFR will be chock full of food and resources for the passengers, as the journey will last about 300 days. The BFR now deploys its solar arrays, which are roughly the size of a football field each, and allow for 200 kilowatts of power necessary for powering the craft. As the passengers near Mars, they are now roughly 240,000 miles away from home. The passengers are now also traveling around 62,000 miles an hour. As the rocket enters Mars' atmosphere, it reaches a temperature of 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which damages the heat barrier. The rocket then uses the fuel in its lower booster to slow the fall and land. On Mars, the scientists will unload the contents of the rocket to set up a scientific area of study on the surface of Mars. Over time, as more passengers are delivered to Mars and more rockets touch down on the surface of Mars, Musk hopes to release a greenhouse gas into the atmosphere, and over time, the planet may be hospitable to humans. Musk then released his plans to the public to create a supercity on Mars that may look a little something like this. Of course, these are all remarkable ideas, and I applaud SpaceX for formulating them. However, when Musk delivered these remarkable ideas to the public, controversy and debate was sparked all throughout the industry. Investors were chattering, magazines were quick to the pen, and intellectuals broke out into discussion about whether or not the idea would work and be practical. With all this commotion aside, I am led to ask one question. Should people use Elon Musk's intercontinental transport system? I agree that it is both necessary and practical to expand the human race to become a multi-planet species by delivering the human race to Mars. However, I am willing to argue that Musk's idea for intercontinental transport is by no means practical. This is because such a concept would be far too destructive to the human body. My reasoning behind this belief is justified by a couple of reasons. Because the amount of G-force acting upon your body when being launched into space is far too destructive, the possibility of decreased amounts of oxygen to your lungs when launching into space, and the risk of heart attack. So before Musk's idea can become a reality, governments all over the world will need to conduct extensive research to see if this idea is safe for citizens. So this will be a problem that is essential for authority to come to a conclusion about. Governments could either conclude that it is safe or not safe, which could prohibit SpaceX to include all of the possible routes for transportation, which could affect how economically valuable this idea could be. All in all, I believe this is a very elaborate and interesting idea worth conducting more research on. That concludes my video podcast, and all credit for the videos goes to SpaceX. Thank you for listening.